All right, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Around the Bird Bath. I'm your host, Dan Nerdahl, and we're doing it a little different this week. I don't have a former alumni. I was going to do the show solo, just kind of mix it up. Got a lot going on in my personal life, but also Alamo Audible's got a lot going on. And baseball specific, we're working on some really good things behind the scenes for you guys, some content-wise. And so with all that, I was just going to do a solo show. Kind of change of events tonight, and Jared was available. So I asked Jared if he wanted to come on, and we're going to do a little more condensed episode this week. Still get you guys the previews you like, but not as detailed as they normally are. But Jared, how you doing tonight?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me on. It's good to talk a little ball. I've been producing these episodes, and I feel like I lead into the Dan Nerdahl greatness, but it's nice to, step into the dugout with you, so to speak, and recap an awesome win against the Aggies and Bluebell Park, man. That was great.
Yeah, that was exciting. I know when we talked in, our preseason preview, that was one of the dates we had circled. A&M was coming in. They made the semifinals last year of the College World Series, losing to Oklahoma. They were preseason number 5 by D1 Baseball, so really looked like they were going to make some noise again. And I mean, they're still a relevant team. It was still a really good win.
Yeah, they could still get hot, no doubt.
Yeah. No, I mean, their offense is really starting to turn around. They got some guys back. I mentioned him in the preview, Brent Minich. Their pitching just has to figure it out. And we kind of saw that last night with even the first inning, UTSA got an infield single, a single up the middle, and a hit by pitch. And right away, bases loaded, 2 outs. Didn't get runs that inning, but started producing the very next inning and just, got a good lead. And our pitching staff kind of, reeled it in and came away with a nice 5-1 win. So.
Yeah, and I think UTSA was not afraid of using some of their best pitchers for a midweek game. It was kind of a strange circumstance, because they had all the weather issues out there in Charlotte. So they had to move that series forward by a day. And I think they ended up canceling 2 games in that series, or just one, right? I think they played just Thursday, Friday, missed Saturday. Yeah. So that kind of threw off the whole rotation schedule, right? You don't want guys just sitting on the bench and just doing long toss, once a week, right? You want to get them some actual action on the mound, right? So they're used to those game situations. So I think there might have been a perception out there that this is UTSA's World Series or whatever. They really want to beat the Aggies. They're throwing Malone in the 6th inning and Simon Miller and all of that. But I think part of it too is just keeping those guys in their standard schedule of going out on the mound and getting some live pitching in.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, A&M wanted to win that game. I mean, they went in the 3rd inning, they went to their best reliever. Yep. Their coach, Javi tweeted out the article today, if you follow Javi on Twitter, and it was their coach. It wasn't some, baseball fanatic like me who just blogs saying, hey, this is a good team. Like a coach who just led his team to the College World Series semifinals is like, hey, this is a really good team. This is a team that can make a regional, be a dark horse for Omaha. And I think UTSA has played some really good baseball the start of the season. They had a little bit of a slump, if you can even call it that. I mean, they still haven't lost a series. They still haven't lost 2 games in a row. They are well on pace for a series record 40-win season before they even get to postseason play. And they're still starting to really take notice.
Yeah, I would like to read some of these quotes, if you don't mind, from head coach Jim Schlossnagel.
Schlossnagel, yeah, it works for me.
Oh yeah, I don't know. I should probably have that name down. This is some impressive quotes. Man, I think we're used to hearing these quotes for football now, but hearing it in other sports is kind of crazy. He was quoted to the Eagle, which is, I think, one of the student newspapers in College Station. I warned our team of this yesterday, this being, losing to UTSA, which maybe that was too much for them. Probably shouldn't have said a word. I don't know if today's college player pays attention to the value of every game, and I tried to warn them of it. UTSA is really good. They're really good. That's a 2 seed in a regional that can win a regional and go to the College World Series. He later continued and said, we knew that we could not get down in the 8th inning because Simon Miller might pitch in the big leagues, implying that they would have no chance to come back and score some runs against Simon Miller. And I think Simon did let up 1 run in that 9th inning, but it's pretty much what we saw out of him. He was throwing his best stuff. that I don't know if it's a splitter or a sinker that he throws, but it was like you had that nice SEC network broadcast, you got the 4K, you got the high quality stream, and you could really appreciate, I think, the pitching a little bit better watching the stream than you do on UTSA's Conference USA TV stream. And man, it was like you could just see like the rotation of the seams on the ball. It would just dive out of the zone and disappear from the batters. It would tail away from them and stuff. And it was awesome. I mean, he totally looks like a professional pitcher out there already.
Yeah, and there was one point, I don't know what the TV gun was showing, but the stadium radar gun showed 96, and Ray and I kind of looked at each other like, I'm not sure if that's right,
Yeah.
and I'm pretty sure it was an error. I maybe he just reared back and threw 96. I don't know, but he was hanging around 93, 92, 93 with his fastball, and then the slider, splitter was kind of 90, 88, 89. He was the one, I would not have guessed it for him, but he was the one UTSA pitcher that was susceptible of the ball 5 chant. I don't know how well that came through from the in the broadcast.
I didn't hear it myself. No,
it was a little weak. They were already down 5-0 in lighter crowd, but the next batter, he struck out in 3 pitches. So I stood up in a section full of old Aggies and did my own strike 3 rendition to just rub it back in their face a little bit.
How'd that go over? Did you get any stares? People turn around? Or
yeah, a couple people looked. I mean, I don't know. Like our section, it was definitely season ticket holders, and so I don't think they were happy that we were in that section to begin with. I definitely told Ray. I said, Ray, now after that, UTSA has to win this game, or I have to leave early, because if they come back and lose this, I won't be able to get out of here safely. So
don't worry. I think our Patreon donors would step up with a GoFundMe for your Bell money.
Yeah. It was. We talked about the pitching. Game 2 against Charlotte, they kind of got hammered, and it's tough. I mean, they had a 3-hour rain delay. That type of game is going to favor the type of team that has the better pitching, and Charlotte does have the better pitching staff, even though UTSA does have one of the better staffs in history. But to see the pitching staff settle in, to see Daniel Schaefer really have a great outing after giving up those 5 runs against UIW in the 9th inning, that was really encouraging to see. And then, seeing Luke Malone come in the 7th inning. And I would imagine, guys will throw bullpen sessions during the week. You kind of already talked about that. He only threw 9 pitches. So I would imagine that that's probably just a bullpen session for him.
Yep.
And then he'll be out there Friday night against Middle Tennessee. And we'll talk about that here shortly. So
yeah, that's totally my expectation for sure.
I did want to say real quick, just a couple, low points. The 2 takeaways was twice UTSA got caught stealing, and the very next batter, Sammy Diaz hit the home run, and then I can't remember who brought in. Oh, I think somebody got a base hit that would have brought in Layden Berry had he not been thrown out.
Yeah.
And so that was tough to see. Thankfully UTSA didn't need the runs, but
they said on the broadcast that the Aggies catcher was throwing out about 50% of steal attempts. I didn't really have a frame of reference for college baseball. Like, is that considered good or bad?
I don't think it'd be good. I mean, I don't see how 50%. I mean, baseball's a funny game because having an average of 300 is considered a really good mark, and that's 30% for hitting. But I mean, hitting the baseball is one of the hardest things somebody can do. So, check me on that. I'll get back to the listeners and try to get an average throw out rate. I couldn't imagine that 50% is desirable, though.
I was just thinking, I mean, if you gave me a 50% chance to get from first or second inning at bat, I'm probably going to roll that dice,
Yeah, I would think 75, 80%. I'll see if I can kind of find, I mean, I know Josh Kleen is very successful behind the plate for UTSA. He's got a real good pop time. That's kind of glove to glove. So I'll try to do some research and see if I can figure out like what the average is for that.
Yeah, I'm looking at the UTSA stat page right now, and I don't see anything about steal attempts on the defensive side on here. I wonder if like Baseball America or someone might have that.
Yeah, let me look on D1 Baseball. I've got that pulled up. While I'm doing that, I do want to mention Ty Odom. I want to kind of single him out. I mean, he's a freshman. He's had a couple big moments both in the field and at the plate this season. it seems like he's kind of the main. Him and Isaiah Walker are splitting time in right field. And then Caleb Hill obviously is holding it down in left field. And I mean, Ty's having a great year. Had a big 2-run double yesterday with 2 outs that, proved huge as they only scored 5 runs and going into the 9th inning with a 5-run lead as opposed to a 2 or 3-run lead. I know against like Western Kentucky, it was a lot closer. And, Simon Miller, he's having a career season, but he can make you a little nervous. He throws, sometimes he has a little hard time with his location starting the inning off. I think against Charlotte, they said he was like, I don't know, his batting average against leadoff hitters seemed really high. I can't remember what it was at the moment, but
yeah, he's the nation leader in ERA, but it doesn't always feel like it when you watch him come in. He'll put you on pins and needles, I think, as a fan.
Yeah. I mean, as far as like UTSA players getting caught stealing, Antonio Valdez has been caught 4 times, but he's also stolen 12 times. So 12 for 16. And then Isaiah Walker's been caught 3 times. Some of those times I also feel like were kind of failed hit and runs. So maybe they don't get as good of a jump because they're counting on the guy to make contact. And then when he doesn't, it kind of works against you. But as a whole, they've got, pretty good stolen base rate as a team. And then on this side, I don't see anything as far as Josh Killeen and his throwouts, but
yeah. So outside of Chai Odom, you also saw some power from 2 UTSA sluggers, 2 guys that have been mashing the ball quite a bit. Sammy, aka Slammy Diaz, hit a moonshot to left field. I mean, that thing ended up in Bryan. It was flying. I don't know what the atmospheric pressure was like out there, but it looked like a home run you'd see at Coors Field, just traveling forever. And then Taylor Smith, cool moment for him. Former Aggie baseball player himself, comes in and hits a double. I think his first at bat back at Bluebell Park, give UTSA 2-0 lead.
Yeah, his first at bat, he actually struck out looking. I thought it was a bad call from the ump. And the umpire had a really delayed strike call, even when it was just like an 0-1 count. And that was really annoying. But yeah, definitely came up big. He also came up big against UIW, his other former school at the Division I level, played a little JUCO ball, but he had a solo shot against them. So
very cool.
Yeah, he's really getting in his groove. Well, let's get into, Middle Tennessee's coming to town this weekend. We got a Friday night game. We got a Saturday afternoon game at 2:00. We got a Sunday afternoon game at 1:00. Saturday, first 50 fans in attendance get a T-shirt. Saw that email come across my inbox today. So if you're in the area, want to get out there a little bit earlier. I don't know what it looks like. I know softball recently was giving out the shirt with like the bats and the Roadrunner, just kind of standard Gildan shirt. So it's probably something like that. But Saturday afternoon, get out there for a T-shirt. And then, Middle Tennessee, they, I think I had them in the conference roundup as a pretender. They're still hanging in there. I mean, right now they're 3rd in the conference at 8-4. Their record is a little maybe more true on the type of team that they are. They're 17-14, but they're right there. And it's definitely a good win because DBU is right on our tails in terms of the conference standings. And this, not just because of attention and rankings, but building momentum going into Texas State on Tuesday, which we'll talk about. But, they really need to, if anything, win the series against Middle Tennessee. And then if they can get a sweep, that'd be great. Middle Tennessee, their RPI is 150, so not terrible, not the greatest. And then just really take advantage of that.
Yeah, their overall record is 17-14, which sounds pretty good on paper. But if you look at some of the teams they play, they've actually played a lot of non-Division I opponents, a lot of programs that I don't think have much of a strong baseball history or tradition. But what caught my eye, though, is they did lose a midweek game to Georgia State in Atlanta recently. But before that, they were on a 6-game winning streak with sweeps of FIU and Western Kentucky. So pretty hot team right now. We'll see how they fare against these really strong Roadrunner starting pitching and bullpen.
Yeah, and I mean, some similar opponents there. They obviously UTSA swept Western Kentucky, and then UTSA plays FIU next week in Florida. So kind of taking care of they've had a tougher schedule playing FAU and Charlotte and A&M, and now they get a little bit of a break, if you want to call it that, on the weekends, playing the teams that are projected to finish a little lower on the standings. But I'm just looking at their stats here. They've got a couple guys with their OPS in the nines, which is above average, but you've already seen, FAU and Charlotte, they had guys with their OPS like over 1,000. So, playing a lesser schedule and not to have anyone with that OPS over 1, who knows what type of team they've got. Baseball, like today, like this is not UTSA related, but number 5 Arkansas got spanked by Little Rock like 10-3 in their midweek game today. And so, baseball is just that type of game. We've talked about that before. So don't overlook them, get in, take care of business. I'd really like to see how well our pitching is doing, see that continue. And as great as Simon Miller has been, I'd like to see them take some of the pressure off him. He threw 51 pitches against Charlotte in game 1. And I think he threw like 35 or 40. Yes, last night against Texas A&M. I want him to have an arm at the end of the season. I don't know what his load is at. I don't know what he can handle, but I'd like to see some of those guys that have struggled a little bit kind of step up and find their groove this weekend and take some of the pressure off Simon. And then another outstanding relief pitcher, freshman Ruger Riojas. And he is really pushing for that freshman opponent's batting average record at UTSA if he can get the number of innings. So, yeah. I
what's
think he's
what's that batting average sitting at right now?
Let's see. Let me go back to that.
While you're pulling it up, I did notice Middle Tennessee has a guy named Jeremiah Boyd that's slugging .551, pretty strong. 8 home runs on the year, 29 RBIs, 20 walks. Imagine he's got a slot in 3rd or 4th in that lineup. Probably got you one pitch around a little bit.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's one thing that the pitching staff, for the most part, game 2 of Charlotte, it kind of, their top guys, Cam Fisher and the other guy, his name is slipping from me, Jake Cunningham. They avoided them real good in game 1. Game 2, they got back. But you look at FAU, they kept Nolan Chenewell really quiet. And the only noise that Nolan Chenewell made was the home run where he was using the bat that wasn't approved. And then even against A&M, Brent Minich, he just came back. He's been lighting it up. I mentioned him in the blog on Monday. They kept him pretty quiet. Obviously when you keep a team to just, 4 hits in 9 innings, you're going to keep their entire lineup quiet, but they definitely are playing up to their competition for the most part. They've yet to have a bad loss this season. I'd like to see their pitching get a little more run support. I think they've had like 12 or 13 of their wins have been, or maybe even 15 or 16 have been 5 runs or fewer, like the margin of victory. And I was talking to Ray about this last night. In college baseball, a 5-run lead is nothing. I mean, you can put 5 runs up in an inning like that. And, we saw UIW do it. I mean, that game, that was tough to watch. I drove home in silence after that game. I didn't turn my radio on. I didn't, call anyone. I just reflected. It's so pathetic, but I was so cut up about that game. I'm embarrassed to say that, but, anyway, so I'd like to see, UTSA jump out to some big leads early, put up the runs early this weekend and, not give up those runs late like they had been doing recently.
Not need to throw Simon Miller for, 2-3 innings. Yeah. Just real quick side note, you mentioned that illegal bat used in the FAU series. I just read on Twitter that UCF had the same thing happen to them. And I think that there was like some obstruction of justice or like, failure to participate in the investigation. They had to come out, like make a statement. So I'm not sure what's going on over there in Florida, but some shenanigans afoot for sure. Some illicit college baseball bat dealers going around.
Yeah, and maybe they're all just working together. Florida schools stick together.
Yeah.
And I mean, UCF, they're obviously moving to the Big 12, so we won't see them in conference play anytime soon for baseball, but FAU is coming with us.
Mm-hmm.
And for those who might have forgot or didn't see the tweets come across that weekend, basically each team has to have their bats approved by the opposing team before the weekend starts. You put a specific sticker on there, and that shows that, hey, you haven't rolled it. It weighs the right amount. And, FAU was using a bat with last year's sticker on there, on purpose or not, who knows? I don't know. I don't know how you could mess that up. The rules, how things work, but yeah, definitely nabbed him on that. And it was funny because Noah Schnuel, he got a double later in the game, and he was like, check that stick. And then he got funny. A grounder. I'm gonna shout out Connor Smith, Sosa alumni and member of the Bad Birds.
Connor Patron as well.
Yeah, Connor's a good guy. So in like the 8th or 9th inning, Noah Schnuel grounded out, and Connor was like, check that stick.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, Connor is my inspiration for. I try to be just neutral, and I understand the role of an umpire and how difficult it can be. But Connor is my inspiration to break out of my shell and to have some banter.
I think they call that bad bird energy. Channel it.
Well, I want to see. I mean, we know the facilities. This is not a facilities podcast, but at some point, when UTSA baseball gets the facility they deserve, I want some bleachers in the outfield, the corner outfields, because I saw SFA do this, and I just want UTSA students like just perching over, chirping at, keep it appropriate, keep it fair, but just chirping at those outfielders. I think that'd be real fun.
Yeah, East Carolina has that too. I just saw that from one of their games recently. I mean, they put the students like right over the foul pole and left field. So they like if the ball comes in play right there, they're just going nuts on the left fielder. Pretty cool.
Yeah, no real, wrapping it up on Middle Tennessee, no real significant, like you said, no real significant wins, some real bad losses to Coastal Carolina. They're kind of top in the mid-major programs right now, them and Campbell. A bad loss to Alabama, and then swept by Florida Atlantic. So it's setting the scene for UTSA to just kind of have one of those weekends and lose the series. Just the superstition and everything. So I'm counting on UTSA to prove me wrong and go in there and sweep them with some dominant wins for sure. So. You got any more thoughts on Middle Tennessee or the Aggie game or?
No, not really. I was looking at the Blue Raiders pitching staff, and they do have a guy named Jaden Ham who has 55 strikeouts on the year. So averaging over 1K per inning pitched, which I think is usually pretty solid. Has given up a pretty good number of runs though. So his ERA is at like 3.56, which I guess is probably about average for the college game. But not as strong as strikeout goes. So probably just want to, keep an eye on the ball. Seems like he probably gives up some bad pitches, but it's got some nasty stuff to have that many strikeouts.
Yeah. And I always think, for ERA, anything under 4 is pretty average, pretty standard for par. I think it was actually Trent Lockwood when I was talking to him, he mentioned this, anytime you get a guy up there that's a strike thrower, you're jumping on him early. He's going to throw you something in the zone. You're going to get to him early. What I really liked last night about UTSA was they were really patient at the plate, and it really paid off for them because they made A&M starter throw like 30 to 35 pitches in the first inning. And they really got to the bullpen early and made A&M kind of start trying to play chess. And obviously it didn't work out for them. But I could see them really jumping on that guy early and trying to make some hard contact. And putting the ball in play is so big. I mean, that's when guys make errors. That's when, the speed of UTSA can get them on the base pads and just really, bring those runs across. So. So FIU, they're 14-19. This game's on the road. UTSA, they're 18-3 at home. Real good home record. They're kind of about 500 on the road, and that makes sense. College and stuff. You're traveling in for the midweek games. You're traveling in the day of. You're flying. You got classes. You're back and forth. You're not staying on the road at all. You're always coming back to San Antonio. So road games can be tough. FAU's had a couple good wins. They beat Dallas Baptist 7-6 in the series finale. They beat Florida Atlantic 16-2 after getting beat 2 games in a row. They took a game against Missouri back in February. Missouri's having a really good season. And then they played Miami close. And then, they're kind of at the bottom of the barrel for the SEC, Conference USA right now. But another great opportunity to really get some good wins. UTSA had a 10-game winning streak earlier in the season. I think last year they had 2 6-game winning streaks. So if they could get another, real good winning streak going, I think that really helped their RPI and help them as they're going into the second half of the season, showing the committee, showing the baseball content writers that they are definitely for real.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and kind of related to that point, but a lot of people ask me, like, is UTSA's chance of getting ranked further this season kind of shot with the loss to UIW or UTRGV, or do you think those kind of national writers discount those midweek games a little bit?
Yeah, I think they definitely recognize that it's kind of, and this maybe is a lame answer, it's kind of a both. You look at both ways, like a midweek game, like losing to UTRGV, losing to UIW, it's kind of like, hey, like, you're supposed to win these games, but they also recognize midweek games can be tough. I think a lot of writers definitely want to see how you're doing in the weekend series, those several games in a row, how one game can affect you to the next, how you're doing against your conference opponents. The thing about the top 25, people have to remember there's 300 Division I baseball teams. So twice as many or 3 times as many as football. Mm-hmm. And you still only have 25 rankings. And SEC, same like football, they're kind of the king of the crop right now for baseball. And so what's hard is breaking in, because baseball is not going to just drop somebody after a loss or even 2 losses. Yep. They're going to look at, who they lose to, how did they lose, all these things. And you play 4 games in a week, so you could still have a really good week even though you drop a game. So it's really hard to get into those rankings. And then when you're at that bottom of the barrel or bottom of the rankings, a bad week just gets you out right away. And that's what happened to UTSA. It took them a while to get in. They finally get in. They go 1-2. They only played 3 games, but they only lost, or they only won 1 game, and it was close. And Charlotte, even though they're the preseason favorites by a lot of people, they're kind of off to a slow start. So, you lose to UIW, you beat Charlotte close, and then you lose to Charlotte, 12-10. It is what it is at that point. That's just inevitable, unfortunately. So, and I know for people, like, rankings are big. Like it's kind of that stamp of approval that you're doing the right thing. Yep. Don't get discouraged that UTSA is not ranked. Baseball is much more big on the RPI. That's going to carry you a lot further than the rankings, just because there are only so many rankings for so many teams. So you really want a really good RPI, so that if you're relying on that at-large bid at the end of the season, then the committee can see that you're a really good baseball team through and through. Right.
Yeah, well said. Well, are there any players on FIU's roster that kind of sticks out to you as kind of a next level guy or an all conference type player?
Yeah, they got a couple guys, with their DH Ryan Guida and their right fielder Mike Rosario. They're the team leaders in RBIs with 34 and 30 respectively. And Rosario has 7 home runs. Guida has 5. And then they got Alex Sanchez, center fielder, with 6. So they've got, 3 guys that are kind of carrying the team in terms of home runs. All 3 of those guys also have multiple doubles on the season, a couple triples. Rosario's a big strikeout guy. He's got 35 strikeouts, only 11 walks. And then the other 2 have, 21, 23 strikeouts. So those are, I think, would be the main guys to look for. And I would imagine that's going to be the heart of their lineup. And that's what happened against Charlotte. Things kind of got off the rails a little bit. And then here comes the heart of their lineup waiting to break out. Mm-hmm. And they just kind of went off on UTSA, like home run, home run, home run. So keeping the ball in the ballpark, that's the other thing that UTSA pitching has done really well this year. They've worked out of those jams quite a bit. They haven't worked out of everyone, obviously, mm-hmm. but more often than not, they get into a jam. Coach Butler or Coach Hallmark is coming out to the mound, and kind of that coach whisper, that pitching coach whisper, and gets them out of the jam. So preventing the extra base hits.
We haven't seen too many of those like kind of catastrophic innings that we saw quite a few of last year, where they're giving up 5, 6, 7 runs in a single inning.
Yeah. But I'd say those 3 guys are definitely, the guys to look out for. And
Rosario is a well-rounded player too, because not only is he getting on base and hitting a pretty good number of home runs, but he's stolen 16 bases in 17 attempts this year. So if he gets on base, pretty good chance he's going to take the next one too.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's hard too, because even if he gets on a single, he's almost essentially at second base. So it'd be real fun to see if Colleen can match with him. Or maybe they'll throw Sammy back there. Sammy's also been playing at first base because him and JK are having great seasons. So getting both of them in the lineup is vital. But and that's the thing for listeners. Like, I know a lot of our listeners are in various places in terms of their baseball knowledge and everything. And it's fun to pay attention when the team's doing well. The OPS can kind of tell 2 different stories. It can kind of tell, do they get on base a lot, or are they a real big power hitter? And if the slugging is higher than the on base percentage, that means they're more of a power hitter. If the on base percentage is a little higher or more balanced, they just get on base a lot. Obviously, the slug, that kind of looks at their total bases, but it weighs doubles, triples, and home runs more. It kind of almost counts those as like 2 hits or 3 hits. Or 3 bases. So, you kind of got to get into the weeds a little bit when you're looking at an OPS or a slash line and see, are they more of a power hitter or more just get on base?
Like looking at Rosario's slash line, he seems like a pretty balanced hitter, but I'm wondering for those 16 stolen bases, how many of those comes off of walks versus singles? And then if you were to count those as doubles, what his slugging percentage would look like, because the end result's going to be the same.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, and that's a great way to look at it. And that, thank you, Moneyball, for that perspective, and just trying to.
Yeah, shall I grab it off the bookshelf behind me over here? I don't show my analytics background too often, but that's what raised me, man. That's what raised me. Changed my whole perspective on life.
There's a really good video if anyone wants to. So it's a younger guy. He's like early 20s, and he's got a page on YouTube called Baseball Doesn't Exist, and he makes just these kind of random videos about random stuff. But he made one about how Moneyball was actually terrible for the Oakland A's, the movie Moneyball, because it kind of showed the rest of baseball the keys to the kingdom, if you will. And so now you've got like the Boston Red Sox and the New York Yankees, and they're doing the same analytic approach with 3 times as much money.
Yeah, you got to look in different places for the value is kind of the way I look at it. Yeah.
No, for sure. Pitching for FIU, their weekend guys are kind of, Angel Gaberkio and Ryan Tabarkas. They've started the most. Angel's got a ERA of 3.82, opponent batting average of 270. He's given up 15 earned runs. He's got 23 strikeouts, only 8 walks. But then Ryan Gabarkas is similar to that guy from Middle Tennessee. Pretty high ERA, 7.20, but 49 strikeouts. So
Man, this
And then
this is ugly, Dan. You're way too polite. This pitching staff looks terrible.
Well, I wasn't. Listen, I wasn't. I was just talking about who their weekend guys were. I mean,
all right.
Yeah, no. I mean, they've got one guy with an ERA under 3, and he's pitched 6 innings. So he had one, and he only gave up 2 runs. So he had one really good outing where he probably went 6.2 innings. He gave up 2 runs.
Oh goodness!
And he hasn't pitched since. No, I'm just kidding. He's at 6. He's at 6 appearances.
I feel like FIU has always been a pretty solid baseball program traditionally. I mean, you're in Miami. Yeah. God, it's hard. The same as Rice, man. Those are like the top 2, baseball talent factories in the U.S. They should always be good. It's crazy to me they don't have better pitching than this.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's kind of like, you see this in Texas with football, like just too many schools. I mean, I don't know how many Division I schools Florida has, but I mean, just who we've even talked about so far: FIU, Miami, Florida State, UCF.
Yeah,
I mean,
Florida Gulf Coast is ranked 19 right now.
I mean, so some very historic programs and then some very relevant mid-major programs. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see. Baseball's a tough game. You play so many days in a row, and you got personal things going on. We got to remember these are college kids, and what I always tell people is the other team wants to win just as bad as you do. But FIU is 3-9 in conference, so they're definitely gonna be looking for some wins coming in, and they're gonna be coming off. Man, they got a gauntlet because they play. So they're playing Florida Gulf Coast tonight. That game's probably already over.
Oh, it got rained out. Actually, I just checked.
Okay, and then they're at La Tech this weekend. They play Florida Gulf Coast next week, kind of a week to week home and away, and then they host UTSA. Then they go to Florida Atlantic. So yeah, they've got a gauntlet and UTSA is that's such good scheduling. They are in the middle of that gauntlet, so they're going to hit them when those pitchers are tired, those pitchers are burned. I'm feeling good about that weekend. I like that.
I see now that Florida Gulf Coast is actually ranked 15th. I did not mean to slight Dunk. Is it Dunk City? Is that what they used to call themselves?
I can't remember.
The Sweet 16 run.
I'm not a basketball guy, but yeah. I've actually never even been to a Spurs game, I'm afraid to say.
Oh, man. Wow. Surprising.
Yeah.
This was the year to go. Tickets were so cheap.
I actually won. Now, I will preface it with it was like preseason, but I won tickets at Little Woodrow's turtle races one time, and I gave them away.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, so I mean, RPI 200. So this is one of those series too. I'll kind of finish with this, and then we'll talk about Texas State just because, big rivals, and that's going to be a real big game a week from yesterday. But this is tough because it's kind of like in a weird way, it's like a lose-lose, like for UTSA, because you don't necessarily get any benefit aside from bumping your conference. So, I mean, that there is that. But in terms of your strength of schedule and RPI, you don't really get a benefit from beating them. You're expected to, you're supposed to. But if you drop a game or even 2 games, worst case scenario, then it's going to hurt you a lot more than it's going to help you. So, boys got to stay ready. They're going to have a kind of a gauntlet themselves coming off A&M and then hosting Texas State next week. And they're going to be, that can be a segue into them. They're going to be gunning for, after the shackling that UTSA put on them in their own stadium a month ago. Yep. And then with the fan response on Twitter, I love it. I'm here for it, but I think our fans
was that the game where their social media team stopped posting the score after the second inning or something like that?
I don't know. That was
definitely Baylor. I don't know.
Yeah, that was definitely the game where several people were on Twitter highlighting the fact that they had been blocked by the Texas State baseball Twitter accounts.
Fantastic stuff. Gotta love it.
Oh man. But yeah, so Texas State and this is the other thing we're kind of mixing up. We obviously don't really talk about Texas State in the weekend recaps, or I'm sorry, the weekend previews, but just wanted to touch on them. They're coming off a real big win against Texas. I think Texas was ranked number Number 19. Yeah. 9-3. So, I mean, not just okay. So I didn't realize this, and maybe a lot of people didn't. It was a home and away. And I think they do this every year. So Monday, they lost to Texas 5-2 at Texas State. And then yesterday, they beat them 9-3 in Austin.
I'm just laughing because, could we ever get the Longhorns to come to the Bird Bath in its current state? There's no way.
No. And here's why. Baseball is such a different, baseball is so different than football in the rivalry aspect. Like A&M still plays Texas in all sports, right? Yeah. But Texas will not touch them in football. Obviously, that's going to change going to the SEC.
Yeah.
But baseball is that type of game where Texas is not going to come to San Antonio and risk losing to their what would you call it? Brother school, their son's school, little brother. I don't know, whatever you call it, but they are not
system school, whatever.
Yeah. They're not going to put that on the table. They have way too of a historic program. I mean, we've gone there. If you listen to Where Are We Now with Ryan Proudfoot, Ryan Proudfoot pitched a complete game win over Texas in their stadium. I wanted to say DKR. That's not it, but no, I don't see them ever coming to until we get the improved facilities. No.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think if we had a stadium on par with what Texas State has, I think they probably would come. Maybe not every year, but I think they would come on a regular basis, right? If we had a legitimate facility. But I cannot picture, because they know what the facilities are like at Bird Bath. You might be able to trick Stanford into coming to play a game in San Antonio because they don't know any better. But UT definitely would not do it. They're like, wait, where are we going to change? Where are we going to go to the bathroom? It's a non-starter for them. But I think that is one of the things I feel like we do this every podcast, every blog. But you invest in baseball, you can get UT, you can get A&M to come to the Bird Bath, and that's huge for your fan base, right?
Yeah.
And you can't get that opportunity in football, really.
Yeah. Looking at the game last month against Texas State, 11-2 final. I'm trying to find the box score. For some reason, Texas State's recap is different than every other program.
Well, they scrub it from the internet?
No. So UTSA and Texas State actually got out to a lead. They scored one run in the second. That was their only run till the bottom of the ninth inning. And UTSA didn't score till the fourth, but it was one run, and then 7 runs in the sixth. And that was the one where they batted all the way around. And I think I posted my notes to Twitter and was like, all right, I think I got it all. And I just do that for my own self so I can keep track of plays to go back to and mention. But 7 runs, 6th inning. But I mean, scored 5 straight innings from the 4th to the 8th, 16 hits, 2 errors, 11 left on base, but they held Texas State to 2 runs and 5 hits in their own ballpark. So, yeah. And that one, I mean, I will say this just to be objective towards Texas State. They did get cut off guard a little bit because the guy they had starting after one batter, he had to leave the game, and they had to go to their bullpen. And I think they went to basically their Friday night guy right away. And if he doesn't necessarily get a full warm up, and then that kind of messes up, maybe I'm giving him too much credit. That's probably shame on me, but it'll be interesting. I say that to say, don't think just because UTSA beat them 11-2, it's going to be an easy win. I mean, this is a real good program. They're playing real good baseball right now. They are, well, I say that, I mean, they lost to A&M, but overall, I mean, they're a real good team.
I think they've been up and down this year from what I've seen from them. I think they're probably not as consistent as they were last year, but I think when they play their best, they're still a really strong program that can beat almost anyone in the country.
Yeah, and that's fair, and that's a good way to put it. They took 2 or 3 against Southern Miss. Yeah, beat TCU. TCU's been up and down too, though. But yeah, some of those, Coastal beat them 2-1. South Alabama beat them 2-1. So yeah, maybe it's a good time to catch them. I don't know. They're playing Marshall this weekend, so we'll see how they do against Marshall.
Mm-hmm.
Former Conference USA opponents, I believe, correct?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. So, but I'll be at the Bird Bath for all 3 games this weekend. I'll be at the Texas State game next week. I don't have it in my budget to fly to Florida International, unfortunately.
Oh man, we need to Photoshop Dan at South Beach.
I need someone. Yeah, I need someone to make a big head of me.
Yeah, a fat head.
Yeah, fat head. Yeah.
Or we should get Alamo Audible giant hats. Those giant hats died off fast, man. I feel like those were like memes for like 2 days. Now no one talks about them anymore.
Yeah, the Atlanta Braves still use them for their home run. Nice. Little
like celebration. Yeah,
it's kind of overplayed. So
yeah, for sure. Well, hopefully we have a really good showing from the Roadrunner Faithful, the Bird Bath. I mean, I was going to say every seat, but every slot on the bleacher needs to have a butt in it. I want to see standing room only out there. I want to see them run out the keg, all that good stuff. Keep showing the administration that there's some real fervor and passion for this baseball program.
Yeah, and I just want to highlight real quick, and we can close out with this, and this is not, I guess, game related, but it is UTSA baseball related. Their Instagram page tweeted today, they had a honorary member, Isaiah, and they held him a press conference, and Luke Malone was up there, Coach Hallmark was up there, Dr. Campos was up there, and it kind of looks like a Make-A-Wish situation. His parents were they were wearing t-shirts that say "Proud Mom of Isaiah, Leukemia Warrior." So just tip of the cap to UTSA Baseball for creating that situation for Isaiah and making that happen. And I think it just really goes to show you the type of guy that Luke Malone is, the type of guy that Coach Hallmark is, Dr. Campos, and we've got some real great leaders for UTSA baseball, but also UTSA athletics as well. And I think they've got us going in the right direction. But I had some good feels in me when I was watching that earlier, seeing just the excitement on his face, getting to kind of sign a letter of intent, unofficial letter of intent for UTSA baseball. So that was cool. But I mean, that's all I've got, Jared. I don't know if you got anything else.
Yep. I mean, before we get out of here and wrap things up, I want to say, as always, thank you to our Patreon subscribers who continue to support us. That includes our big money donors, Ben Tovar, Rick Cortez of Rowdy Road Grillers, the Bunch family, Zach Espericueta and the San Antonio Podcast Network, Brandon Padron, the Bikes family, and a special shout out to our Board of Trustees members, Digiteek, John Otwell, Lino Perez of Los Dos Rowdy Tailgating, Gary and Ruben representing the UTSA Bird King Tailgate, Ray Redding, the GOAT, Meet Me Apparel, Brandon Grill, the Grill Realty Group, and the Elizada Proficient Benefit Solutions. And if you're not a Patreon subscriber, or if you are, this is the last week of our new store to be in like limited release mode. So if you're a Patreon subscriber, you can get access to that on the store link on our website. We have some designs that we're going to like retire next week when we officially launch our new store, and prices are going up once we launch this new store. We want to keep them low, so Patreon stuff, so Patreon subscribers can go in and get some of the new stuff and test out the quality, give us some feedback and all of that. So we gotta make a little bit of profit now. I was looking at our profit loss record for soft launch, and I had to have some honest words with Adrian, man. We're gonna have to bump it up a little bit, man. We're not trying to fleece anyone out here, but 1 month we were negative, so we don't want to lose money selling merch. So that's one goal of ours, believe it or not. And then last note for me is next week we will have our first ever tennis podcast. So stay tuned for that. That's really exciting. Of course, I'll be at the spring game this week. Aaron is going to be there. I don't think Adrian's going to make it. But we will have an episode on the Republic of Football, Dave Campbell's podcast feed next week to share our thoughts and takeaways from the spring game.
Awesome. Yeah, I subscribe to the ROF feed, and I keep seeing like Aggie War Pod and everything come across. Yeah. I keep waiting for Alamo Audible, so it's exciting to see how you guys are doing and just the jumps you guys are making. So.
Yeah, I think it kind of increases the appetite and demand for a new Alamo Audible podcast when you're seeing all the other schools get their podcast out. So Yeah, we try to stay on top of it as best we can.
Yep. Well, thank you again for coming on. I know this was kind of last minute, but I think I enjoyed, honestly, the mix up of how switching up how we did it, a little more laid back and provided a little more deep dives and stuff. So hope you guys enjoy listening. This has been Around the Bird Bath. I've been your host, Dan Nerdahl. Thank you to Jared for joining us, and hopefully see you guys at the Bird Bath real soon.